Well, good Wednesday morning, everyone. I have to apologize for yesterday's technical debacle in the parking lot of Sprouts, where I was going to talk about what I'm going to talk about this morning. I'm not sure what the problem was yesterday, but it might have something to do with what is it, disk size or memory on my phone or something like that. Whatever it is, I wanted to talk about late great old friends, colleagues, and demons. And the centerpiece of my talk is an afterword that I was asked to write back in 2010. I was asked to write the afterword to this book, a book that originally came out. When? It originally came out in 1992. Okay, and it's one of the 4 books I wrote with Christopher Hyatt, Aleister Crowley's illustrated Goetia, and it's illustrated by David P. Wilson. And I think those are the two late great friends and colleagues I want to talk about. I found an old picture of the 3 of us sitting on our lodge pew or prelate seat or whatever it's called, and I posted it on Facebook today. We're all looking like deer in the headlights in that picture. But anyway, I want to share that afterwards because I don't have the 2010 edition. I think they never sent it to me. But this is it. It's out in several editions by several publishers, actually. So if you're interested in Aleister Crowley's illustrated Goetia, I'm sure it's available in all sorts of editions. Only one of it which also has this afterwards. Are you ready? It's been 18 years. Well, actually now it's been 31 years. It's been 18 years since the first edition of Aleister Crowley's illustrated Goetia appeared on the bookstore shelves. The idea was simply to provide a commentary to the Lesser Key of Solomon, an attempt to bring the classic text out of the dusty shadows of Crizzle Mew superstition. And just to remind you, Crizzle Mew is the doctrines of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Crizzle Mew. The project turned out to be a loud and rollicking collaboration of 3 very opinionated practicing magicians who love the art of Solomonic magic and the genius of Aleister Crowley. I don't think it occurred to any of us at the time, but we each had our own way, or each of us in our own way had something genuinely unique and valuable to add to the existing store of knowledge concerning this most misunderstood spiritual practice. David P. Wilson, in just a few years would start writing his own books and having them published. And he wrote from then on until the rest of his life, he wrote as with the nom de plume of S. Jason Black. So when I'm talking about David Wilson, I'm talking about the younger S. Jason Black. David Wilson and I showed up 5 days a week at the home of Dr. Christopher Hyatt in Long Beach, and in a little over 2 months, the three of us took the book from conception to completed manuscript. The doctor and I ensconced ourselves at separate computers at opposite ends of the room. Wilson sat on the sofa with his drawing pad. Each morning we assembled at 10 a.m. and mumbled our way through coffee, broke for a light lunch around noon, and promptly at 4 p.m. turned off the computers and chatted while the good doctor mixed us all double vodka martinis garnished with huge garlic-stuffed green olives. I have to admit, life was pretty damn sweet. There was never any doubt who the captain of this magical crew was. Hyatt's vision of a popular and easy-to-understand how-to magical manual constantly redirected David and me toward broader and more adventuresome horizons than either of us would have at the time allowed ourselves to venture. This led to some pretty lively martini-time debates over whether or not Goetic spirits live in existence independent of the magician's consciousness. My view was and remains that the entire universe, reality itself, including the collection of forces we call gods, angels, spirits, demons, and ourselves, is an aspect or expression of consciousness. The magician, indeed every consciousness monad of existence, is in a sense a holographic shard of the universal consciousness and contains and reflects the entire spectrum of these hierarchies of spiritual forces. Just as the part of the soul that the Kabbalists call the neshama, the soul intuition, is not limited by time and space. So ultimately, there is no outside of ourselves for a god or an angel or a spirit or a demon to exist. The neshama explains everything. I would insistently slur over my second double martini. As much as I tried to articulate the fact that my theory allowed that the spirits were simultaneously out there and in here, Wilson was not to be convinced. For him, they were out there, down there, in hell, and they could be objectively summoned, bargained with, and employed like any other labor force or mercenary army. I ended each evening's debate with the same exasperated retort, "I agree, David. I believe the same thing. But it's all in your head, too." Wilson was uniquely qualified for the job of illustrating the spirits. He was a talented cartoonist and a passionate magician who delighted in any excuse to conjure a demon into the triangle. Conjuring spirits was for him more than a magical exercise. It was, for all intent and purposes, his vocation and his religion. In the years to follow, he would chronicle in print many of his magical adventures under the pen name S. Jason Black. His inner eye drew from a rich vocabulary of provocative and colorful images that breathed tension, romance, and danger into every one of his encounters with infernal spirits. Hyatt seemed to delight in listening to David and me go back and forth about the nature of spirits. His observations and comments, always frank, sometimes cruelly cynical, seemed cunningly designed to provoke us all into deeper and deeper dimensions of the issue at hand. He quite literally choreographed the project to become the byproduct of magical group therapy. I'll never be able to properly express what a privilege it was to work with these two brilliant magicians. It's a shame, even indeed a tragedy, that both my old colleagues are gone. And our work, a labor of love, hate, has become somewhat of a cenopath. I take comfort in the fact that our little book remains in print after nearly 31 years. I believe even Dr. Hyatt's expectations were exceeded. I continue to receive letters and emails from magicians all over the world who have read Aleister Crowley's illustrated Goetia and who seek advice about Goetic evocation. In fact, and this is when I wrote this in 2009 or 10, in fact, I'm in the process of finishing up a book that's a collection of such letters and responses to them. And that book eventually was published as Ask Baba Lon. I'm excited to present my thoughts and advice in this kind of format because I believe more can be learned about magical theory and technique when discussed in the context of a magician's day-to-day challenges than from theoretical pronouncements. Now, I shall end this afterward with one such exchange of emails. Now, this exchange of emails happened back in probably 2008 or 2009. That's a long time ago. And even I'm going to read the person's question, but I would say that I would handle it a little bit differently in this day and age. I would probably after reading the first letter, I would probably politely say, this is something I don't wish to enmesh myself in trying to advise on this, but I went ahead and did it anyway. So, with that little preface, here's the question. Here's my answers. Dear Lon, I was wondering if I could get your assistance on something I've recently become aware of. I have a friend, just met her recently, that I was considering as a potential magical colleague. I knew that she was dealing with some great difficulties due to her work, which was part of the reason I saw potential in her. But as things have come to light, it's become more and more clear that she's in a very bad situation. I think I'm supposed to help her because every time I ask her a question about what she had been doing and what's going on, I knew the answer before she told me. Still, I wonder if I'm out of my league. Apparently, she tried to perform a Goetic evocation. She was attempting to evoke Guisan, but got something else entirely. Now she has cuts up both arms, and she's gone to the emergency room twice for other reasons. This time the doctors could not figure out what was wrong with her, except that her blood count was very high, as in too much blood, I believe. Now they're saying she has kidney stones. I did tell her to perform the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, at least every day, but I wonder if that's enough. I was considering performing the supreme banishing ritual of the pentagram for her, but again, I don't know if that'll be enough. Obviously, this is a very difficult spirit, since it has sent her to the hospital and induced self-harm. So I don't know if there is something more powerful I should be doing. Can you give me your opinion on this? One of the problems I'm facing is I don't know what spirit I'm dealing with here. She was calling Guisan, but she said her mind was on about 6 other things when she was doing it, and I think that's where things went wrong. I haven't done any evoking myself. But if I'm not mistaken, Guisan's a very easy spirit to work with, and that clearly is not the case here. So it could be anyone. Please let me know what you think as soon as you can. Now, that was a very sincere letter, and it was very frank, and I applaud this person's candor. And they know enough, I guess, because they've read the book, to know that Guisan, by tradition, one of the 72 spirits of the Goetia, which is a duke, which is sort of under the general auspices of Venus. The 11th spirit is a great duke called Guisan. He appears like a Xenophilus, which is either a blue-headed or a strange-headed creature. There's David's sort of cartoon-esque, there's a strange-headed guy. Not that your Guisan will look like that. He tells all things past, present, and to come, and shows the meaning and resolution of all questions you may ask. Sounds like a great guy. He conciliates and reconciles friendships and gives honor and dignity to any. Okay, so that would be sort of if you're going to try out Goetia, sort of an innocuous one, because everybody more or less needs what this guy provides. But obviously something else is going on there, okay? And the person that is having this problem, cuts on the arms, emergency room, that person isn't writing me. That person isn't asking my advice. The person asking my advice, no matter how well intended, is attempting to be the magician in charge, and they are asking me the question. Okay. And there are so many places that it's obviously that they're not grasping the situation, including their own relationship and potential relationship with this person. But I'm not a psychologist, okay? This is a psychiatrist's question. But stupid me, I answered. Hi, John. Wow. Sorry to hear this. I hope she can work through this soon. Look, John, that's not his name, but that's what I use here. Because I think we know each other well enough, he's written back and forth over the years. I'm going to be very candid with you and assume you'll take what I say in the loving spirit with which it is offered. First of all, you haven't given me enough information to make even a wild evaluation. Cuts up her arms? Are they self-inflicted? If so, lots of young women, even those who do not dabble in magic, do that. If they are from an unknown cause, it's probably wisest for the time being to let her doctors exhaust their efforts before assuming a magical cause. emergency room twice for other reasons, unquote. What other reasons? Please, John, as Mike Myers, Dr. Evil, might say, throw me a bone here. On second thought, don't. Look, sometimes it's easier to mistake pre-existing pathologies and dramatic expressions of mental illness for, quote, magical potential and demonic attack. It is a fact that the practice of magic can exacerbate. It rhymes with trilobite. Magic can exacerbate existing pathologies. I'm not saying that this is absolutely the case here, but I can't count the number of cases I've encountered over the years where people start dabbling with magic because they have mental problems to begin with, rather than them developing mental problems because they practiced magic. Until they address the true source of their problem, trying to cure them through magical means only supports and amplifies the problem. Your concern for her is admirable, and it may be that you can be in a position to magically help her. If you're convinced you're destined to magically ride to the rescue of this damsel in distress, then there's nothing I can say one way or the other to dissuade you from attempting to do so. But magic is a big art form. And more often than not, real magic is done by seemingly unmagic-y means, such as simple human contact, love, support, humor, and giving yourself on a warm and human level. I will say this, however, if you have doubts as to whether or not you are, quote, out of your league in magically dealing with this situation, then chances are very good that you are indeed out of your league. And you can help your friend best by simply being her friend and not injecting a mysterious element of magic and superstition into the formula of her recovery. Good luck with this, my best. Okay. Dear, he writes back, and it's, Dear Lon, believe you me when I say I share your concerns. I'll try to answer as best I can, but I'm not clear on all the details myself. It took quite a bit of work just to get the information that I did get. When I saw the cuts on her arm, I asked if she did it or the spirit. Her answer was, a little of both. I know that doesn't tell us much, but I did make a point to look for any old scars without being obvious. I didn't see any. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. With regards to her emergency room visits, the way I understand it is she went in because she had intense pain all through her body. The first time they couldn't find anything, the cause, etc., etc. Second time they told her she had kidney stones. So she's been on Lortab since that happened. Now, this may convince you that all this is in her mind, but actually I know for a fact she has mental issues. She told me a few things that happened to her in her childhood. Extremely traumatized. She's delusional. She's a pathological liar. Okay, and he goes on and on and on. But it's clear that he still wants to ride to the rescue to this, and all of this is just an attempt for me to give him some kind of magical recipe to burn something, to call forth, to put her in a triangle, he's wanting that kind of stuff. And when I didn't give it to him, he's explaining why. I really need to know if you think there may be any way of finding out for sure if she's just not trying to get my attention. I'm a very attractive guy, and she's not very attractive herself, so she may feel she needs to resort to this. I don't want to know that, okay? And I should have been telling them, I don't want to know that, okay? Okay. My letter back. Dear John, here I go again. I'm going to be frank. Put on your thick skin. I think you're missing the biggest and most fundamental big picture as to what Goetic spirits are, and what one can and cannot do with this particular magical technique. I feel that I have failed miserably by not communicating this more clearly in my published works. For that, I guess I must apologize. I don't know what else to tell you except that I believe you cannot evoke another person's guisson, or indeed any other person's anything. You can only evoke yours. Didn't I make that clear in Key of Solomon's Key, or Aleister Crowley's Illustrated Goetia, or Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, or Angels and Demons and Gods of the New Millennium? Also, one magician's guisson can be a perfectly lovely fellow, and that's because his or her guisson is, for one reason or another, already pretty much under control. Another person's guisson can be completely out of control and running amok. That guisson will be a very nasty beastie indeed, and very hard to, perhaps impossible to bring under control. Here's some practical advice. Something I would do if I were faced with a similar situation. But of course, you are not me, so I can't blame you for ignoring this completely. First of all, do everything you can to get her mind off magical things. You are a skilled enough magician to do that, or are you a skilled magician enough to do that? Magic talk is just making things worse for her. Perhaps explore with her alternative health ideas, nutrition, acupuncture, homeopathy, etc. Things that bring in real health professionals. Secondly, do whatever you need to do to become comfortable and justified in your own mind and heart with your own motives for getting so deeply involved and so seriously enmeshed in someone else's nightmarish, perhaps deadly karma. You must be 100% convinced that her issues are your issues, a vital part of your own karma, that her healing is vital to your own spiritual well-being. You must be convinced that you love her so much that you'll risk your own sanity to save hers. I'm not exaggerating, John. Finally, if you can get into that unshakable frame of mind, then without her knowing what you're doing, get something, an article of clothing that she has worn would be perfect, take it home with you and perform a simple banishing ritual of the pentagram over it, sprinkle it with clean water, cense it with the most holy incense you have, then sit down and have a frank, impromptu conversation with whatever it is that is contributing to your friend's mental problems. No need to call guisson. Tell it to get the hell out of her life and stop tormenting her. After all, your little exorcism chat Banish again and go about your business. Do this twice a day for at least 2 weeks. For God's sake, do not tell her what you're doing. Do not even hint as to what into that something is being done. Secrecy is the magician's most powerful tools. If you do, your efforts will be opening the door wider for the spirit to take over her completely, and you'll be drawn deeper into the nightmare yourself. Well, that's got to be the end of my advice to you on this matter. I have the feeling, however, that you've already made up your mind about what you'd like to do, and that I've just taken a whole fucking hour out of my life to advise you about something you will probably have to learn yourself by trial and possibly error. It may be that you really need to do this. All I really know is that, personally, after 35 years of my own trials and errors, I wouldn't go near this chick with a 10-foot pole. My best, Lon. Okay. Now, I'm not sure I would, if I was asked to write this afterward today, if I would write the same stuff or include that same snippet of Goetic-related communication. But I'm sharing it with you because I'm not sure I've done it, or if I've done it, I haven't done it in a long time. Anyway, that's it for today. I want you to know that I miss my old friends, Christopher Hyatt and David P. Wilson, or Dr. Alan Miller and S. Jason Black. But I do. And my life has been blessed for knowing them and working with them. And I'm also thankful for the brilliant people that I know and work with today. So I'm a lucky guy. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.